Hello fantastic creatures, I'm Fantasims and welcome to my channel. Those of you who know me, you know I do some crazy stuff with Twisted Mexi's Tool mod. Tool mod allows you to elevate, rotate, scale objects and much more beyond what the game allows you to do. And other people do not need this mod installed to download the builds you create with it. It does not get flagged as custom content, so it is by far my favorite building mod. But many of you are scared to try it because it just seems too overwhelming, but I promise you it is not hard to use. So in today's video, I'm going to show those of you who are new to the Tool mod how to easily create your own custom furniture, objects, and much more in The Sims 4. I actually have a tutorial playlist you can check out that goes into detail about the different ways you can use the Tool mod, including some advanced techniques if you're interested. But I wanted to make a very clear and simple tutorial on the 7 main ways to use this mod to elevate, rotate, scale, duplicate, move objects, group select objects, and move groups of objects. Now, there are plenty of videos and websites that explain how to install mods into your game, so I'm not going to spend time here showing you how to do it because you can easily check that out. Before we get twisted and moving, we need to set up our lot and enable cheats. So once the mod is installed, you want to make sure you're in live mode with a sim. So here's a lot I am working on, creating this crazy dragon, and this is the kind of thing you can do with the Tool mod. Now, of course, this is more advanced, so I'm not going to be showing you how to create this exact thing today. We're going to focus on something a lot simpler, but I just wanted to show you these are the kind of things that you can come up with the mod. You can pretty much create whatever you want. These are the objects we're going to be focusing on in this tutorial, and in live mode you want to make sure that you pull up the cheat console. So you do that by clicking Control-Shift-C buttons at the same time on your keyboard, and then up here in this bar we're going to type in testing cheats, all one word, testing cheats space on, and then click enter. It just allows all cheats to be enabled. Oftentimes I don't have to type in this cheat and the Tool mod automatically just works for me, but sometimes I do have to type in the cheats, normally after an update of the game, and then just hit escape to exit out of it. Another thing you might want to do before you start using the Tool mod is to set up the dialog box for the mod. So to use Tool mod you always shift click. Either you shift click on the ground or you shift click on the object to do something with it. Right now we're just going to shift click on the ground and we're going to click Tool Options, and here we are going to click Change Settings. Now my window is set up in the upper left corner, but if you want to change this dialog box to different areas of the screen you can do that by set dialog position. You click on that and you can have it in the center if you like. You can have it to the left or the right or the very top, or my personal preference, which is the top left because I'm left-handed, so I think looking to the left is a lot easier for me. But it keeps the middle of the screen clear so that I can see what I'm doing when I'm using it, and that's the only setting we're going to mess with right now. And then the last thing that we're going to set up before we start using it is the move objects cheat. So if you're not familiar, again you can pull up the cheat console by Control-Shift-C and type in bb.moveObjects spacebar on, click enter, and it's going to allow you to put objects on top of each other. So when it's off, you can't put objects on top of each other. It shows them as red because they're interfering with each other. But when the cheat is on, you can place objects wherever you want and layer them on top of each other. And the very last thing that I like to press is the F5 button on your keyboard, F5, and you'll see the difference here. Now, normally when you move an object, it sticks to the grid system on the solid white lines and the dotted white lines. But if you click F5, I've just clicked it, you can now go in between the lines, and it gives you a lot more precision when you're placing an object. Alright, now let's get into using the mod and building. First we're going to focus on the elevate feature. Alright, so some of you might be saying, but we can already elevate objects in build mode by simply pressing the 9 key, like so, or the 0 key to lower it. And yes, whilst that is true, the Tool mod allows you to do it with even greater precision. So I'm going to demonstrate something in a minute, but we'll set it up here, and I'm going to elevate this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times with the 9 key. And then when we head over into live mode, real easy to elevate an object. You just shift click on the object, hold the shift button down and then click at the same time. Click tool, it's nice and bright and red so you can see what it is very clearly, and we're going to go up to the top to the elevate feature. Now here we see in the dialog box that you can pick a number between -25 and 25. You can actually go beyond these numbers. Twisted Mexi has just put these numbers here because if you go above 25 it's going to go really high. So let's try it out. If we click 25, look how high in the air it goes, and the reason he chose 25 as the limit is so that objects aren't flying everywhere and you're like, where the heck did that go? Because you can end up, if I did 100, it would go way out of my ability to view the object. So he put those in as guidelines. But let's say I've moved something and let's say it did shoot up in the air and I don't know where it's gone. It's super easy. Just shift click on the ground, tool options, and just click undo, and it'll pop the object back where it was. Okay, now remember I elevated this with the 9 key in build mode 5 times. Well, look at this. This is a helpful thing to remember. number, if I elevate this one by 0.5, it'll be the exact same height. And that's because one click of the 9 key in build mode is the equivalent of 0.1 decimal with tool mod in live mode. The reason this is so helpful is knowing that it's 0.1 means that when you're trying to place an object on a shelf, for example, and let's say it's an object that doesn't usually lock, and we have this dreaded gap that we're all very familiar with. And of course now with shelving, you can hold the Alt key and you can change the shelving to go right underneath, but you can't do that if you're using objects like cabinets. So knowing that one click of the 9 key is the equivalent of 0.1 means that it gives you a guideline for what kind of number you should choose if you want to lower something on top of a shelf. So that way it avoids you doing things like, oh, I wonder what happens if I lower it by -1, because you use the minus to lower something and positive numbers elevate them. And you're like, whoa, that was way too much. Well, that's because one click of the 9 is 0.1. You don't need to click an entire 1. We'll put it back up to 1. It helps you know that you're working between a 0.1 decimal. So what does that mean? Does that sound confusing? I apologize. So in other words, I'm probably going to want a number that's less than 0.1. So let's try 0.05, because that's half of 0.1. Just moving it back the decimal. If you've got a basic sense of decimal points, this system is super easy. Okay, and that's actually perfect. And he's right on top of the shelf. So this makes it so much better than using the 9 and 0 keys in build mode, because it just gives you the kind of freedom of precision where you position things. This liberates objects so you can put them wherever you want. Another reason why this elevate feature is so incredible is because many of you have probably already come across that if you hold down the 9 key, it will only allow you to elevate it up to a certain point, which is pretty high. But let's say that I'm trying to create something that's like a big tower, that I want the whole object to be from ground floor. I don't want to have to put some of the objects on upper floors. Then the elevate feature allows me to go beyond what build mode will allow me to elevate an object to. So here, like I showed you before with the number 25, let's say 15, I'm already able to elevate much higher than build mode will allow me to do. And the final reason why I think this elevate feature is so incredible is because let's say I'm holding down the Alt key so I can place an object wherever I want. And let's say I'm coming up with this really weird, funky, I don't even know, this isn't a real thing, but let's say I've layered a bunch of objects on top of each other. And let's say I have an object here and I realize actually I want it to be a bit higher. Usually when you hold on to something, and I don't know if you noticed that, but when you try and elevate it with the 9 key after you've selected it, a lot of times it bumps out of place. So I'm going to hit the H button, the H key, to go back to where I was. Notice how it popped out a little bit. See that? It pops out of alignment when I'm trying to move it around, and I haven't used the mouse, I haven't moved it, it just jumps. And many of you know what I mean when you're building and you're trying to create a custom object. Things will just pop out of place, which in this isn't a real object that I'm trying to create, obviously it's a mess. But if I've really tried to precisely place something in build mode and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I need to move it, but I don't want it to jump out of alignment because then I'm going to have to take time to try and put it back again. Easy peasy, just go over into live mode. It'll stay exactly where it was, tool, elevate. And let's say I just want it to go up by 0.3. And then I can say, oh, that's much better. That's exactly where I wanted it to go. I probably should have used something more interesting to show as an example, but I'm just trying to be quick. All right, now the second feature of the tool mod, which is my absolute favorite, is the rotate feature. So in build mode, it's already set up in a 360-degree system, just like the tool mod. So for example, you can use the period and comma keys. So right now, the comma key is turning it to the right, counterclockwise, and the period key turns it towards my left, clockwise. But if you notice, like this is, let's say that this is 0 position facing you, then if I click once on either the period or the comma key, that's a 45-degree angle right there, 90-degree angle, 135-degree angle, 180-degree angle, all the way around till you get back to 0 position or 360 degrees. So if you know the degrees of a circle, this feature is actually really simple to use because the tool mod also uses the 360 degrees of a circle. The difference, however, is the game will only allow you to go in 45-degree increments, and the tool mod allows you to go in any degree within decimal precision. Like you could do 23.995 degrees and it will rotate it to that specific number. Now some of you might say yes, but you can already hold the Alt key and swivel it to wherever you want. And while that's true, yes, I find it a lot better to have the decimal precision, but also the rotate feature of the tool mod doesn't just allow you to rotate it the normal way like this, it also allows you to rotate it this way and this way, so it gives you a lot more options. So in order to rotate something, what I like to do is elevate it first. So shift click on it, tool, elevate, and normally elevating it by 1 or 2 is fine. I'm just going to do 2 because it's a bigger object, and the reason I do that is because sometimes if you rotate an object, especially with smaller objects, and you haven't elevated it first, it will get hidden into the ground. And if, again, you can always hit undo like I showed you before. Shift click on the ground, tool options, undo, and it'll go back to where it was. Also, you can redo. We're back up to where we were. So I suggest elevate before you rotate, and then shift click on it again, tool, and this time we are going to choose down here in the corner, rotate. And you're going to see these green lines that pop up, and these show the axis where it's going to rotate. So right now it's selected, it's going to roll it over. But we can change that axis. There's 3 different options. Just click on change axis, and now we can rotate it this way, and then change axis again. And this allows you to rotate it the same way that we normally do in build mode, but again, you can do it with greater precision. So for example, I can rotate it by 12 degrees if I want. And there you go, it'll turn it around 12 degrees. We're going to undo that, and let's try it on a different axis. Now, every object can be rotated on this axis because this is the one that already comes in build mode. So all the debug objects can be rotated this way. It's just the other 2 axes that some objects cannot be rotated. So we're going to try a different axis, this time rolling over on the side, and let's choose 23 degrees. And look at that, it tilts it to the side. And then let's undo that and change the other axis. So shift click, tool, rotate. Let's change the axis, and now we're going to do it this way. We'll just do like 30 degrees. If you do a positive number, it'll go one way, and if you do a negative number, it'll go the other way. And it's really cool because, I mean, the underneath of this isn't very interesting to look at, but I love rotating things because sometimes the underneath of an object is really cool and you can use it for something. So that's an example of something you can rotate, but there are objects like this boat that cannot be rotated. So I'm going to elevate this like I normally do. And a lot of times it's trial and error. I've been using ToolMod a lot, and I still come across objects that I think can be rotated, and then I'm like, oops, I guess it cannot. So let's try and rotate this 90 degrees to stick right upright. Nope, nothing's going to happen. So you're going to get objects where nothing happens. Now, you will come across objects like this one from Strangerville that cannot actually be rotated like the others. So for example, if I try to rotate this, let's change the axis. Okay, by let's say 20 degrees, it'll just make the object skinnier. And there's several objects like this. They tend to be things that are like a post like this. And if I try doing it again, let's say by 40 degrees this time, it'll go real skinny, which can actually be really cool because this looks neat being skinnier. So even if an object cannot be rotated like the others, even when they go skinny, that can be really helpful. All right, now let's actually get into using this feature to build this custom roofing that we're going to do today. There's going to be a feature that I am going to show you in a minute where you can duplicate items, but before we get into that, I'm just going to focus on rotating. So I'm going to choose several of these objects in build mode so that I can show you how to rotate them in live mode. So if you're not very good with the degrees of a circle, you can always download an image from online just to keep as a reference. But for example, this middle post, well, all of them right now are in, let's say that this is position 0. From here to here is a 90-degree increment. A quarter of a circle turn is a 90-degree increment. 45 degrees would be half of that. 22.5 degrees would be half of that. So I'll show you visually so it doesn't seem so confusing. So if we've got this one in the 0 position, and let's say I want this one to be flat against the ground, I'm going to rotate by 90 degrees. And okay, look, it actually turned it the wrong way. So I'm going to undo, or let's redo. If you want to put it back in the position it was, it went down 90 degrees. So to put it back, you do minus 90, rotate minus 90, and we're back up in position. So now I've discovered for me to turn this particular object facing towards me to the right, it actually needs to be a negative number. So we're going to rotate it this time by negative 90 degrees. So negative 90, okay, there we go. That's exactly where I want it. So then this one, if I want to mirror image it, this one will be the positive 90. So rotate, and we're going to go 90 this time. Okay, and there you go. Mirror image on either side. Okay, now let's say I want to have some of these posts fanning out. So let's do these ones by 45 degrees. So we'll do 45 degrees for the one on the left and minus 45 for the one on the right. Okay, that looks good. And let's say the next post, I want it to be halfway between this upright position and halfway between this 45-degree angle. Half of 45 is 22.5. So I'm going to shift click on this and we're going to rotate it 22.5, and then we're going to rotate this one minus 22.5. And there you go. And if you go back over into build mode, now with the tool mod, you can actually move things around in live mode. We're going to get to that one in a minute, but for just focusing on the rotate feature for right now, because putting all of them together might be too overwhelming for you at the beginning. So I'm just going to show you how you can layer things in build mode like you normally would. And we're going to layer them on top of each other in that center position. So they're all kind of fanning out from the center. And look at that. That looks great. It's got this really awesome fan shape. But the problem is it doesn't seem to fit the shape of the roof. So we're going to get into how we can fix that in a minute. But before we get there, we're still focusing on just the rotate feature. I do want to show you something important. Now, our view is kind of blocked by all these Sims running around, but let's say I want to make an angled version of this. Some of you might think, well, that's easy. Just in live mode, rotate everything by 45 degrees because this is 45 degrees. Remember, I told you the game focuses on things that are in 45-degree angles. The diagonal-shaped walls and the diagonal-shaped roofs are actually at a 45-degree angle, and the straight ones are at a 90-degree or 0-degree angle. And so the thought process could probably be, if you just swivel this around to be at a 45-degree angle, you don't have to make a separate one, but it doesn't quite work that way. So what I would suggest instead is to actually, when you're setting up the straight version, to also set up the angled version. And what I mean by that is, see how the arrow of the object is facing towards us here? Well, on the angled version, you want to make sure the arrow is facing towards the front as well by just using the comma key or the period key. And also notice that objects function differently against a diagonal wall than they do against a straight wall. So if I try to get it close up to the wall here on a diagonal, it goes into the wall, whereas this is what it looks like on the straight wall. Objects are just a little bit more funky when you try and do them against angled walls. So this is going to stick out a little further. Now we can do it with alt placement to get it closer if we want. The only thing about doing alt placement is then you have to make sure they're all alt placed in the same position. And that's where the feature of duplicating in live mode is really helpful. But like I said, for those of you who are beginning, using all of the features at the same time might be a bit too confusing. So let's just focus on only the rotate feature, and I'll show you how to duplicate in a minute. And to keep it simple, I'm just going to keep them all sticking out at the same place in the automatic lock positions that the game already puts objects in. Okay, and then over in live mode, you just do the same thing. So I'm just going to rotate this by minus 90 because it's towards the right, but notice this angle is actually the wrong way. So let's fix that up. We're going to change the axis. There we go. And we're going to go minus 90 to the right, positive 90 to the left, minus 45 to the right, etc. I want us to now focus on the third awesome feature of this mod, and that is scaling. And some of you might say, well, we can already scale in build mode by holding the bracket keys. So for example, the left bracket key will make an object smaller if you click on it, and the right bracket key will make it bigger. Now with every object in the game, you can only click the left bracket key 4 times to make it smaller. And so technically that's in decimals of 0.25. So if we say that this object is size 1 because that's the original size, then if you click the left bracket key, we've gone down to 75% of the original size, 50% of the original size, and 25% of the original size, and you can't go any smaller than that. Now for the right bracket key, you can pretty much go quite big in the game, probably a lot bigger than you're probably going to need it to be. But sometimes you can have an object where, for example, in this roof decoration that we're making, this is just slightly too small. We want it a little bit bigger. But if I click the right bracket key to get it just one size bigger, that's way too big, because what happens is the right bracket key doesn't go up in 25% intervals like the left bracket key. So sorry if that sounds so confusing with all the math. So again, we're at the original position, in the original size, it's 1, and each time we go down with the left bracket key, it's 25%, and we can only do it 4 times. But then the right bracket key, clicking the right bracket key once doesn't make it 25% bigger, like 1.25 would be 125%. It doesn't function the same way. It goes up an entire size. So now this is size 2, size 3, size 4, size 5, and so on. So again, if that was confusing, the left bracket key makes it go down in 0.25 or 25% intervals from the original, 75%, 50%, 25%. But when you go from size 1, the original size, and use the right bracket keys, we don't go up in 25% intervals, we just go up in 100% intervals to size 1, size 2, size 3, size 4. And so that can get frustrating because I only wanted it a little bit bigger, but now that's way too big. Well, with the tool mod, we can remedy that. Now we're going to shift click tool, and we're going to select this one right here, scale. Now keep that in mind again, the original size of an object is 1. So if I want to make it slightly bigger, let's try 1.25, which is 125%. So 1.25, let's see how big that makes it. Okay, now that's too big. So let's try 1.1, 110%. 1.1, much better, but it's still poking through a little bit. Let's try scaling by 1.09. Oop, almost. We can still see a little bit of the object, but it's a lot less than it was before, so I think we can get away with scaling it by 1.08 5. We're getting very precise now. And look at that. Perfect. It's not clipping through. Now for this centerpiece, what size do we want it? I'm not sure, so let's just scale it up by a whole size to get a frame of reference. So let's just scale it to 2. Whoa, that is way too big. Unless you want that part sticking up as like part of a roof decoration, which doesn't look bad at all. But let's scale it instead to 1.6 and let's see where that takes us. Actually, that's quite perfect. So we're going to leave that at 1.6. And then you've got these parts over over here that are sticking out too far, and that's at its original size 1. So let's scale it to 0.8, so 80% of its original size. Oop, that's way too small. So let's try 0.9, so 0.9, and that's pretty good. Already, look at that. On this side is the original shape, and it doesn't fit the frame at all, but now we've made it to fit the frame. Now, something that you might want to do, this is something I have to do because I'm incredibly forgetful, is I keep a note document open. Now, I'm using a Mac, so I have this notepad feature. I don't know what it's like for Windows, but I like to keep note of what I've done so that if I decide to tweak it later, I'm not trying to keep scaling it to guess because I can't remember the original size. So I would say this is my beams, my roof beams, and let's say center is, what size did we have? Was it 0.9? And then I might say the 22.5 angle was, what size did we have that one? I can't even remember. Oh yes, it was 1.085. And then for the 45-degree angle, it was 0.9. And then for the 90-degree angle that's on the floor, it's just size 1, its original size. We could probably make it slightly bigger because it's not quite touching the edge there. So let's try scaling it by 1.05 because we only need it slightly bigger. Oh, that was a bit too big. So scale it by 1.025. We're getting super decimal precision here, but I want to show you how precise you can get with this tool mod. I don't want to overwhelm you with the math. That's not my goal in this tutorial. I just want to show you the degree to which you can get really precise in your creating and building. That's much better. So I'm going to take note that that was 1.025. And I know this seems a bit tedious, like, oh my gosh, this math. It's actually very simple math. It seems a bit complicated. I always find numbers quite complicated. I was never very good at math. But once you get familiar with decimal points and you're familiar with the degrees in a circle, tool mod becomes super easy. So just take note of it because there's no way that my brain is going to remember that. Maybe I decide halfway through building this that I actually want the roof slightly higher, and oh no, now I've got to adjust all of these pieces. I've already got note of the size that they are currently, and that way I don't have to spend minutes playing a guessing game trying to figure out how to scale them again. I just find it really helpful. Okay, so we have elevated, we have rotated, now we have scaled, and the fourth incredible aspect of the tool mod is the ability to duplicate objects in live mode. And you might say, we can already duplicate objects in build mode by shift clicking on them, like so, and you can make as many as you want. Yes, but here's where it's really helpful to have duplicate in tool mod. Now, like I said before, sometimes to position an object precisely where you want it, you need to use the Alt feature. And you can duplicate an object, but then you've got to layer it on top of it again. And sometimes, you know, when we're trying to position things ourselves, we're not very precise. But over in live mode, I can shift click on this object, click tool, click toggle active object, and then hold the shift key down and the Alt key down at the same time and click on the object again. And there, it's layered another object and it's in the exact placement as the original. So you don't have to spend ages with the Alt key trying to make sure it's aligned perfectly on top. It's actually with precision on top. And so I'm going to hold down the Shift and Alt key again and make more duplicates because we want to mirror how many we've got here. So we have 7 objects here and so far we only have 2. So I'm going to hold down the Shift and the Alt and I'm going to click 5 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we have 7 objects on top of each other. And now we can use what we've just learned about rotating and scaling with this duplicate feature. And so I'm just going to click on the object to stop it from being green. There's 7 of these on top of each other. So now I'm going to rotate them like I did the original ones. And we're going to do minus 90. One of them goes down. We're going to do minus 45 and another one goes down. And we're going to do minus 22.5 and another one goes down. And then you do it on the other side with the positive numbers. Tool, rotate, 90, tool, rotate, 45, tool, rotate, 22.5. And look how much faster that was than trying to arrange everything in build mode. You can do it all in live mode together with absolute precision and you don't have to try and alt place them later in build mode. The duplicate feature is also incredible for, let's say, we're going to elevate this by 2 and then let's do some of the other features we've already done, like scale it to 2.456 because we're being ridiculously precise at the moment. Let's say I want several of them of the exact same size. Well, I don't want to have to lay out several objects because this is what happened in old school tool mod. It didn't have this duplicate feature. So I had to lay out each object individually. But now look what we can do. You tool, toggle active object, and you can either shift Alt key, then click to duplicate it right on top of it, or shift Alt key, click on the floor, and it will duplicate it off off to the side. And then you can either go into build mode and reposition where you want it, or if you hold the Alt key down, you can actually move it where you want it to go. We'll get into that a bit more in a minute. So that's basically the duplicate feature. This leads us into the fifth incredible feature of this mod, and that is the ability to move an object in live mode with Alt placement. So for example, let's say I want this object to remain over here, but I want another version of that object somewhere else. Tool, toggle active object, and we're going to make a duplicate. So we're going to hold the Shift and the Alt, and let's say I want this to be placed over to the side. I can just click on the floor, click over here on the hill, and it'll pop up there, because technically this entire mod was designed so that you can create things off the lot, because the limitations of build mode means that you can't change the surrounding looks around the lot that you're building on. So let's say that I build a building over here, but I would really like to have something over here. I can actually just click over here and look, my object has moved over there. Look how cool that is. And then I can click it back over here. I can pretty much put it anywhere within where the camera lets me go, except for where you see it has the stop sign, that red stop sign next to the arrow. It won't let you click on like areas over there. But anywhere that has the walking feet, you can click the object over there and it'll go there. And that's so awesome. If you want precision in placing, the Alt feature, this is where the Alt feature comes in. Hold down the Alt key and you can just keep clicking on it. I'm keeping clicking on the arrow while I'm holding down the Alt key, and it gives me more precision in where I place the object. Like so, which is really awesome. Now, right now, the setting automatically snaps it to terrain so that when I click on something that's higher, it will pop it up to that level. Click it down here on this part of the terrain and it'll pop down there. But let's say I'm trying to place an object and I want it halfway up this mound, for example. Instead, I can shift click on the ground, tool options, change settings, and get rid of this snap to terrain feature. So get rid of the X so it's no longer crossed out. Okay. And then I can get it to go into the mound rather than on top of it if that's where I want it. Another reason why you might not want it to have snap to terrain is you can actually place objects up on a wall. And if you snap to terrain, you can do that. And if you get rid of snap to terrain, you can still do that. But if you move the object over, it will stay at that elevated position. Whereas if you have the snap to terrain feature on, it can jump back down to the floor level. So it just depends on what your purpose is. Like sometimes you might want an object to be up on the wall, but then you want to hold down the Alt key and bring it out a bit, but if you notice, it's lowering and lowering instead of staying where you wanted it because you're bringing it down to the terrain level because you've got snap to terrain on. But if you get rid of snap to terrain and you click it up against the wall, and let's say you want to keep it at that height, but you want to pull it out a bit, you can now pull it out and it'll stay at that same height. And that's why having snap to terrain on or off can be beneficial depending on what you're building. And this leads us into the sixth amazing thing you can do with the tool mod, and that is group select. And so we're going to shift click, tool, toggle active object, and we're going to hold down the Alt key and click on each one of them. Alt click, Alt click, Alt click. And then you can do the same thing as I just showed you. You can just click on the ground and it'll pull the whole group of objects in their original position. And this is perfect because sometimes when you're building, you put together this entire elaborate design and all of a sudden you realize, oh, it's half a tile too far to the left or the right, or I need to pull it out a bit. And you don't want to have to spend hours repositioning everything again. Well, this group moving feature allows you to do that quite easily. And again, if we shift click on the floor and we change the settings to snap to terrain, now I can move that entire group on top of the terrain like that, which is really helpful. And I can hold down the Alt key and kind of tweak it where I want the whole group to go. You might not be able to see, let me zoom in. Just Alt click and see how it's just tiny micro movements, just moving a little bit, nudging to the front, which is so good for precision placement. And again, you can turn the snap to terrain off. It will keep it, see, it kept it elevated at the position that the terrain was on because I turned the snap to terrain off. So now it's keeping it at the height that I had it. If I turn snap to terrain back on, it'll go back down to the ground. But now maybe I'm in a dilemma because I'm like, oh, actually, I kind of liked it where it was originally, so that you don't have to try and reposition it again, because you can undo stuff. So we can undo, tool option, undo until we get it back to where it was. And for the most part, this works perfectly, but there does come a point where it won't undo anymore, especially when you've got big groups of objects like this. And I can try and get it exactly in the position it was before, which actually that's quite good. But sometimes it's hard to get it back in the position it was before. So what I would suggest instead, if you want to move something, all you have to do is duplicate the entire group the same way that you duplicate an individual object. So we're holding down the Shift and the Alt key and we're clicking on it, and now we've duplicated the entire group. And then you can practice moving it around, and maybe after moving it around you're like, actually I like where it was in the beginning. Well, look, you don't even have to reposition it because the original is still there. So duplicating, moving things in groups is really helpful. And also moving them around isn't just about where you place them on the ground, but you can actually rotate groups of objects, elevate groups of objects. So if I shift click, tool, elevate, I can elevate the entire group, and I'm going to do it by 2. And look at that, the whole group elevates. Same with rotate. Let's say I want to rotate them all at the same time. We're going to rotate them all by 30 degrees. They've all gone to a point because they all rotated at a 30-degree angle, and that's so much faster than doing them individually. Alright, so now we're going to put it all together, and I'm just going to show you from scratch how to do it using all the features we talked about. And I've set up the side because I'm going to be doing the same thing. And then for the tiles for the roof, I've chosen this wooden pallet coffee table, I think from Seasons, because I'm going to make a wooden roof. And I'm just setting it up by submerging the object halfway into the roof because I'm going to be trying to figure out the angle of the roof, and I don't know what it is at the moment. Okay, great. Now let's go over into live mode. Alright, now when you use all the features together, it saves a ton of time. So see how much faster it is when I shift click on this, tool, toggle active object, and I hold down the Alt key and click on this side one too. And then I am going to, I don't know if, let's do it from this angle so you can see both. I'm going to hold down the Shift and the Alt key and click 6 times because this one's already the 7th one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's done it on both of these sides, so I don't have to do them separately, which is awesome. And then I'm just going to make them not green anymore. Shift click, tool, toggle active object, Alt click on that, and then we're going to rotate each of them. So change the axis, there we go. And remember we had one at 90 degrees, so we're going to do 90. And there, it's happened on both sides, which is really cool. Then you're just going to click on the object and it's automatically going to go green. Hold down the Alt key, the other one, click on the other one, and it'll go green. And then tool, rotate, and we're going to do the next one was 45. Perfect. Do it again. Oops. Alt click to make them both green. Shift click, tool, rotate, 22.5. And then we're going to do it for the other side as well. Okay, and there you go. I've done the other side to match, and they're both done at the same time. That only took less than a minute to do it. But the difference is going to be that this is a smaller piece of roof than this one, so we can't do both of them the same size in scaling them, so we'll have to do them differently. So because both of these sides are going to be the same size, we're going to tool, toggle active object, hold down the Alt key, click on the other one, and both of these are going to be the same size. So we're going to shift click, tool, scale, and I'm going to look at my notes that I wrote earlier, and this one's the 45-degree angle, and we had it at 0.9. There you go. Actually, I want to be able to see the circle part of it a bit more, so let's scale it to 0.85. Let's see what that does. Too small. Tool, scale, 0.875. Almost. Let's try 0.88. Nope, not quite. Tool, scale, 0.89. There we go. I like that. And I'm showing you the process of me doing something I've never built before because that'll help you guys see the process I go through when I build. And I just realized I should have also done one on the back as well. But that's okay because what I can do later is copy this part of the room and put it on this side. So that's not that big deal because they're both the same size, so it'll be fine. Okay, now I'm just going to click on this one and then Alt click on the mirror image. And originally we had this scaled to 1.085. I'm just going to do it a bit smaller. So let's do 1.08. A bit smaller. 1.075. Nope. 1.07. Or maybe even 6.5. Let's do 6.5 and see what happens. There, I like that a lot better. And see, it's just a bunch of trial and error, really. You don't have to be this precise. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so that's why I get a bit precise, but you don't really have to be this precise. And then this one, we scaled to 0.9. Wait, no, wasn't it? No, it wasn't 0.9. I wrote that down wrong earlier. It might have been 1.9. 1.9? Nope. Tool scale. I wonder why I had it written down as 0.9. Did you guys catch my mistake? I can't remember what it was. Well, let's just try. Oh, it was 1.9? No. Oh, it was 1.09, was it? No. 1.3? Okay, it was 1.6. I have no idea why I wrote down 0.9. Oh well. Oops. See? It's good I'm showing you my mistakes because then you can see the crazy madness that happens when I try to build things. Alright, let's try and change these ones. So Alt, click on that. And we are going to make these 1.025. I did at least write that one correctly. There we go. And they're kind of too far down maybe? No, because when there's a wall underneath, you'll be able to see the bottom half of this post. So I'm just going to leave them. I could elevate them if I wanted to. Let's say I wanted to elevate it by 0.1. The only thing is that I'd probably then have to make it a bit smaller because it cuts into the circle a bit more. So I'm just going to leave them where they were, but that just shows you how you can elevate things together. Oh, the undo feature only worked on one side. Sometimes the undo feature glitches for me. I don't think it's the mod, I think it's build mode, because ever since I started getting glitches, moving things as a group isn't always perfect when you try to undo it. But that's okay, I'll just decrease this one by 0.1 and there, it'll be back into its position. And then we've got to figure out how big to make this side. So let's test it out. Tool, scale, and from eyeballing it, I'm going to say 1.1. It's probably going to be totally wrong. 1.1. Almost. Let's try 1.15. Scale 1.15. Ah, too big. Tool, scale 1.3. I mean 1.13. Much better. Okay, let's see. We're going to toggle select this one. Alt click that one. And I'm thinking 0.75. 0.75. Let's see how close we are. Not bad. I'm going to leave it there. Nice. I mean, the only downside of this is that the posts end up being different thickness, but it's fine. I think it still looks effective. Alt click on the other one. And if that was 0.75, we're probably going to want a number slightly smaller. So I'm going to try 0.6. That might be too big. Oh, actually, it's too small. Let's try 0.65. 0.65. Oh, just a bit big. Tool, scale. Let's get a bit closer. 0.62. Yeah, that's good. It could probably go with a slightly bit bigger. Tool, scale. Let's do 0.63. Ah, good enough. I'd probably do scale 0.625. There we go. Lovely. And then I'm thinking, oops, I got to select both of them. I'm thinking this one should be 0.7. Almost. I'm getting better at eyeballing how big something should be because I've used the tool mod for so long. So let's try 0.71. Just one more. Tool, scale 0.715. Yep, I like it. And then just click on an object to get out of the toggle select. And look at that. It didn't actually take very long, and already we've got a really cool decoration for our roofing. Okay, now to the trickier bit. And again, you can do the exact same thing on this side, but I'm not going to because then this video will be even longer than it probably already is. And I just want to, I don't know, I get really bored with the roofing because it just looks so flat and, well, it looks like wallpaper. So I'm going to make something that's a bit more three-dimensional, but I don't know what the angles are on the roof. Well, that's okay. We can figure it out. So we are going to tool, rotate, wrong axis. That's the right axis. And I don't know whether it's a minus or a positive number. I think I had the palettes facing towards me. So if the arrow in build mode of the footprint, you know how there's a green arrow at the front of the object when you click on it? If it's facing towards you, then a positive number will bring it towards you and a negative number will push it back, if that makes sense. So this will probably be a positive number. And I'm going to start with 45 degrees and putting it right next to the roof. See how it helps you? Because I'm going to try and line this up so that it's flush against this edge. So we've already done 45. I'm assuming that it's probably only somewhere between 10 to 20 degrees more that we need to rotate it. So let's try 10 degrees and see what happens. Almost. And to get a better sense of how flush it is against the roof, I'm actually going to elevate it, but I'm going to lower it by minus 0.2. We only need it to do a little bit, and see how that helps me to see if it lines up a lot better because I can see the seam in the wood, and we want this part to be submerged. And I'm going to rotate it by another 5 degrees, making it a 60 degree turn. I can do math. Okay, so we're going to add 5 degrees. Oop, that was a bit too much. So we're going to subtract from it. So let's rotate it by minus 2.5 and see what happens. And I feel like that's almost perfect. I feel like I shouldn't have done the 0.5. So 0.5. Yes, that seems perfect. You're really just eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be that precise. I'm sorry, guys. I am a perfectionist. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so what it ended up being was 60 degrees minus 2 because we didn't need the 0.5. So it's 58 degrees, and I'm going to take note of that because it's probably a different angle than the bigger piece, the bigger roof that we're about to do. Let's try it on this side, and I don't know whether I had the arrow facing this way or that way. We'll soon find out. So we're going to rotate this, and let's try it at 60 degrees and see what happens. I feel like it's probably steeper than that. Oh, actually, not bad. Not bad. Okay, shift click, tool. We're going to lower it a bit so it can get submerged into the roof. Minus 0.2. Just nudge it in there a little bit. Okay, so 60 was a bit too steep, actually. We need to pull it back a bit. So this might end up being the exact same angle as this one, which doesn't usually happen. Rotate, so we're going to do minus 2. Oh, look at that. Oh, actually, is that close enough? It's actually, that never happens to me, but they're both about 58 degrees. I don't know, that one doesn't sit right. No, actually it is. Never mind. My eyeballs deceive me. Awesome. I'm going to lower this bad boy into the ground. and maybe lower it a bit lower so it hangs off the edge of the roof. I like that right there. Okay, I should probably pick my trim, and I'm going to use this kind of thickness I think is nice, but let's pick our colors first. This is my favourite part sometimes when I'm building something, is just coming up with the colour scheme. I don't know, that kind of has a seaside look to it. Or you can do like a bright white. Let's just do bright white because most people clicking on the thumbnail of this video will probably want the nice bright white colour. Alright, now I like this neutral tones with the kind of beige weathered wood and the white, but I think we're going to use a bright colour to help this pop and feel a bit more like it's the seaside. Either that one or kind of like that one better, but I feel like this blue matches with that one better. Maybe not. I'll just go with the lighter one. We can always change it later when we're done. Okay, and we are going to make sure that we like the position of where we've got the wood. I like that. And I'm going to pull this forward. Do I want it to cover the front of the trim like that? That might look nicer because that way when you look underneath you see blue rather than the white. I think I might like that better. Okay, yes, that's what I'm going to do on both sides. Okay, let's cover up the front of it. I'm going to position it there. I like it, I like it. I think I lowered this one further than this one. Yes, I did. Let's go down one. Okay. Oh, let me show you. Okay, so I realized it goes down one. I'm going to hit the H key just to go back to where it was. Why not put the tool mod in action at every step? So we're going to elevate and lower by 0.1, because remember, 0.1 is equivalent to using the 9 or the 0 key. And it actually does need to be tweaked to the position. So we're going to toggle active object, and holding the Alt key down, we're just going to shift it over a bit, get it to where we want it. There we go, that's where I want it. Okay, we're already in live mode, so what you can do is you can hold down the shift and the alt key, click on it, and you've duplicated it, and just put it off to the side. And then alt click. Oh, but notice it dropped it down because I forgot to get rid of the snap to terrain, so I'm glad that that happened, because now you can see how to remedy the issue. So let's try and undo that. Oh, but it'll do the micro movements, so never mind, let's just put that off to the side and I'll delete it later. And let's hold the shift and the alt key down again, and this time let's move it over. There we go. And what you can do is drop down the walls so we can get a better sense of where we're placing it, and then hold the alt key down, and we're just going to position it where we want it. Okay, so that's brilliant. And we're just going to do it one more time over here. And collapse that again and move it over here. And then hold the Alt key down. To move it over there, I just clicked on the floor, I didn't press anything. And then I'm going to Alt move it to where I want it. Just holding the Alt key down the entire time. Sorry if my voice starts to get like in my throat and monotone when I'm concentrating. I don't sound very enthusiastic. Alright, so that's perfect, and it might seem like, oh my goodness, you have to do that for every single one of them, all the way up the roof. Well, I'm glad you asked that. No, you don't. Just hold the Alt key down, click on the other two, and now you can use the group feature, hold the Shift and the Alt key, click on it, and then I'm going to move it away, and I'm going to elevate it. Let's try 1.5. That might not be high enough. Yeah, I think 2 would have been better, so we're just going to elevate it by 0.5 again, and that still might not be high enough. And I've never built a roof like this before, so I have no clue what I'm doing, but it doesn't really even matter because this is how I'm always building, so doing it for the first time with you guys I think is a better representation of what the building process is actually like. It's so much easier when you've already built something once to do it again. Oh, actually that was too high. I was right the first time. So let's minus 0.5. We might have to do it by a bit more actually. Oh no, actually that's quite good. And I'm just going to use the Alt key to pull it back a bit. And I'm going to leave this jagged edge. I want it to look a bit rustic. And let's be honest, it's easier. I am going to pull it over maybe just slightly. Oh, that wasn't slightly. Just find a part on the floor that's going to get it to where you want it. And sometimes you just have to fidget with it. Like that was a bit too much. Let's try over here. That's pulling it out too far. So let's try over here. There we go. There we go. And then you might be thinking, oh, but then you have to keep doing those rows again. No, look, we can duplicate these two. Alt click on that. Click off to the side. Oops, I didn't want all of them. I forgot to duplicate them. See, this is good. You're seeing me make mistakes while I'm doing it. Undo. Okay, good. The undo feature worked really well there. Hold the Shift and the Alt key down. There you go. Now we can move it over. And I'm going to elevate it by 4. And then we are going to use the Alt key again and move it over. This is actually way faster than trying to position everything in build mode. Oh wait, that was way too high. Elevate, -2. I think that's too low, but that's okay, we can fix it. And let's elevate 0.5. Elevate more by 0.3. Let's try pulling it back and see how much more we need to elevate it. That's quite close actually, so maybe 0.1. Brilliant. But I feel like this row actually needs to be lowered just a little bit because there's too much of a gap. So let's shift click tool, toggle active object, and click this whole row, and we are going to lower it by -0.1. Yeah, that's pretty good. But then that means that this one sticks out slightly too much. So let's select all of them and move it back just a little bit. There we go. Oh. Oops, that needs to be lowered as well. See, it's just about tweaking it, but it's good to show you how I tweak things so that you get a sense of what it's like. -0.1. Okay, let's pull it forward a bit. And I'm going to hold the Alt key down and unselect the other ones. And then I think I'm going to lower this row by -0.05 just to lower it just a little bit. Okay, let's see how that looks, how close to the top it is. Oh, so close. And we've got this area over here that needs more. So what I might do is Alt select this entire section, collapse, and Shift Alt click to duplicate. Move it over and then use the Alt key to position it where I want. Perfect. And then I can just delete the ones I don't want over in build mode. Perfect. And the great thing, because it's a roof, we can just mirror image on the other side. Oh, the only thing I didn't take into consideration when I did that is, look, it's cutting into these beams that I made, so I might have to make those smaller. Or should I just pull it away from it? Let's see what it looks like if you pull it away. So I'm just selecting all of them, and we're going to aim for the middle, hold the Alt key down, and just hopefully pull it out a tad. Yep, that's working. Let's double check it. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it like that. Now, what do we do about the top? Because there's not enough room to put an entirely new one up there. So what we can do is we can just select the top row and we are going to elevate it by like 1. Oops, again, I forgot to duplicate the objects. Undo. Oh, it's not letting me undo it. Okay, fine. So I'm just going to elevate and -1, put it back where it was. At this time, we're going to hold the Shift key down and the Alt key. Click. Okay. Sometimes when you've got objects layered on the other, like there's a row underneath that's not toggled green and selected, but sometimes if I just shift click like that, it's only selected the one instead of all the green ones. So for example, if I try to elevate it, it's only going to elevate that one square instead of the whole row that I have selected, because they're on top of each other and sometimes it's hard to tell. So it helps to have an object off to the side. So I'm just going to use this spare one over here. I'm going to Alt click it, and that way I can use this as my control object, and I can click on that and elevate it by 1. And it'll help lift the entire row up, and then I just Alt click again to unselect that object. Okay, and then we're going to drop down the walls and Alt click and drag it. Oops, tool options, undo, that bumped too far. So we're going to Alt click, there we go, that's going great. Okay, that was a bit too high up. Okay, so let's try lowering it by 0.3. Hold down the Alt key, aim for the middle. Nice, I think that works great. We're still probably going to have to use some sort of trim on the top to tie it all together. Oh, there's a bit of flickering, so let's elevate. Oops, I didn't hold the Shift key down properly. Select them all again and elevate by 0.02. There we go, and that should remove flickering issues. And then the great thing, because it's roofing, I can just copy the room and rotate it the other way, and it's a done deal. Okay, so in build mode, all I have to do is copy this room, because I'm not using any debug objects. If you're using debug objects, you can't just copy a room like that. You can save it to your library and then place the room, or you can use Twisted Mexi's Better Build By mod, and then you can copy rooms of debug objects easy peasy, a lemon, a squeezy. Okay, I'm going to build a wall. Uh-oh, I forgot about that. There's a glitch in the game at the moment that deletes stuff. It's so annoying. It deletes anything that's elevated if you build a wall or whatever. Let's undo that, and instead, let's copy it again, move it over there, and that way I can build a wall, and it won't matter that it's going to delete it. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to the other side, rotate it. Sweet! Get rid of that wall. Oh, I forgot. I can't do that. It's going to delete it. Whoops. Okay, this is what we're going to have to do. Oh, the rigmaroles of build mode glitches. Okay, we're going to move this section of the room over here. We are going to minimize the room and then delete the walls. and then move this piece of the floor. Oh goodness, we get there in the end. That's what counts. Okay, I'm just going to swivel it around with the period or comma key. There we go. Perfect. So we have that. So Twisted Mexi also has a mod. It's expandable build by, and it also comes with a feature that has like a protect. You can type in a cheat BB protect and it'll prevent stuff from being deleted. I don't have it installed at the moment because I have better build by, so I don't need that mod. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swivel this room around, and let's delete this front row here because I don't think we need all of this. And then in live mode, I'm going to toggle select everything. So shift click, tool, toggle active object, and I'm just going to alt click and click every single one, and then I'm going to move it over. So I'm just going to click on the floor over here to move it quickly, and then use the alt key to place it with greater precision. Does that look good? Oh, we went a little too far, so let's pull it back just a little bit. Alt click, pull it back. Let's see if that's good. Perfect, that wasn't too bad. Nice. And then we're going to do the same for this other side. This time we're going to copy this room and we're going to rotate it this way to match this roof over here. Alright, and then we're just going to do the same thing again. We are going to try and position it over here and use alt placement to get it where we want it. Actually, that's almost spot on. Let's just move it over to the side a bit. And then we are going to hold the shift and the alt key, click on it, and then we're going to move it over, and then alt click it to get it close here. Okay, there we go, that's perfect. We probably only need 2 more rows of it, so let's just select 2 rows. Oh, actually 3 rows. I can't really tell. Let's just select 3 rows and hope for the best. Oh, but it doesn't line up, see? One side sticks out a bit further than the other. So, we're gonna have to shift it over. Okay, new plan. Let's select them all again, except for that very end strip, because that's excess. Okay, and then let's try and move it forward a little bit. Oops, it jumped. Let's try and undo. Hopefully that works. Yep, we're gonna try. That's better. A little bit further over this way. Collapse the walls, make it a bit easier. Pull it back a bit. She can be a bit of an unruly mistress, this one. Okay, let's see if that's lined up better. Yeah, pretty even. I think that's even enough. There's a bit of a gap though between the roof and that, so I do need to pull it back a bit. There we go, that might be good enough. Oh, still too big a gap. It's just trial and error really, and I know that this might seem very tedious, but it saves time in the long run to do it all together like this, than trying to elevate everything in build mode, which you wouldn't be able to do anyway, because it goes too high. Come on, don't be shy. There we go, let's see if that's better. Oops, it's a little bit further on one side, so let's tweak it again. Okay, I think that's good. Let's just elevate by 5. Oh, I did it again, guys. I forgot to duplicate it. Oh, I'm absent-minded. Okay, it's not allowing me to undo it, probably because I've selected so many objects. So I'm going to just lower it by 5. -5 to put it back in its place. There we go. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to lift the whole thing. I think that's going to be too much work. So let's just deselect the bottom rows and just keep that top portion, and then I can just delete whatever we don't use at the top, or lower it, or whatever. So Shift Alt click to duplicate, and then use an object off to the side. Alt click, and we are going to elevate by 2. Hopefully that's enough. Alt click again to deselect that object. Now it might be tricky because the place where I need to click on the floor is hidden by all of these objects. Close to the top actually. Let's elevate it a bit further. Elevate by 0.3. Ooh, that turned out pretty good. And I'm not even gonna delete this row. So it's got a bit of overlap in areas, but it's not flickering. Something I would suggest too is as you're building something and using the tool mod, hop on over into build mode periodically and save the room that you've created. Because the worst thing, I don't really have a problem with my game crashing, but the worst thing is when you've spent ages creating something only to find out that you lost it because the game crashed. Now something to keep in mind is the more objects you have on a lot, the more it can make your game start to lag. So let's delete some of these excess objects objects because there's no point having objects that are just going to cause it to lag. So I'm pretty sure we can delete these ones. Let's double check. Yep. And I don't know, can we delete that one? Yep. And we can delete these. Oops. No, we can't. We can delete this one. And we'll do the same on the other side. Okay, and then that just gets rid of excess objects. Plus, it might make it easier to try and use the alt placement on the other side. And we're pretty much done, guys. We just need to place this other one on the other side and then put some sort of decoration on the top to finish the trim. Okay, so I've got the whole roof piece selected. Let's see if we can position it over here. Nice. Okay, alt placement. Hold down the alt key. And let's see if we can get it lined up. It does tend to lag a little when you've got a ton of objects selected. Actually, that's really perfect. Let's double check the gap. Bit of a gap, so let's move it over. Middle. Ooh, I think that might be perfect. No, it's not. I spoke too soon. Okay, we just need to pull it back just a little bit. The only thing is, I kind of need it to be closer to the roof. This might be too far away. Ooh, not bad, not bad. Yes, 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 yes. All right, that's beautiful. Oh my goodness, look at that, guys. She's a beaut. Okay, now we just need to come up with some sort of trim to put on the top. Just to make it easier for the sake of this tutorial, I think I'm just going to top the very top of this roof with these pieces, but just like a smaller version. So I'm just going to zoom in underneath the roofing area and place at the center these pieces. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer them on top of each other and then I'm going to scale them down in live mode so there won't be any flickering. It's a tight squeeze in here. Okay, so I've got my row and then I'm going to go over into live mode and let's toggle select all of these objects. So shift click, tool, toggle active object, then alt, hold the alt key down as you click them all. I'm saying it over and over again because I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you're new to the tool mod and it's helpful to hear someone say what you're supposed to press over and over again to help you remember. That or it's super annoying. But if that's the case, you can just mute me. Okay, we've selected all our objects and now I'm going to shift click on the group and elevate it. And let's try 10. It's probably too high. Yep. So let's try minus 1.5. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, I forgot. I needed some more for the overhang. Aw, man. Alright, back over into build mode. Okay, so let's do... Okay, so that should go to the end, hopefully. Yeah, because the trim end's right there. Okay, yeah, we're good. Okay, so let's do it on the other side as well. So I'm adding 3 of them. Let's go back over into live mode and click on these instead. Alt click, alt click, alt click, alt click, alt click. Okay, and so I elevated it by 10 minus 1.5, so 8.5. Elevate 8.5. There we go, look at that, all lined up. And I think I might want to make it smaller. So I sized it down with the left bracket key twice, which means it's 50% its original size, aka 0.5. So I'm thinking maybe it's actually quite close to the size I need it. So let's just select these before I figure out the math. Okay, so I've selected all my pieces. Let's try scale 0.4. I feel like it would be too small, but let's see. 0.4. Actually, oh yeah. Okay, so let's do 0.45. Scale 0.45. And I think that's probably good, so let's lower it now. Tool, elevate, and because we're pretty close to where I want it to be, let's try minus 0.2. We don't want to go too far down. Oop, that is actually too far down. That's okay. Let's elevate it by 0.05. Yes, I love it. The only problem is these ones stick out a bit over the edge, but that's fine because in build mode, oops. Ooh, there is flickering. Oopsies. We'll fix that, don't worry. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select every other one. And this is a trick I do. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I do this all the time. And we are going to, we're going to try and figure out every other one. There we go. Okay, so once you've selected every other one, oops, I didn't quite do it over here, did I? Oh, something funky's happening over here. I don't know what I did here. I'll have to fix that. Anyway, there's flickering because they're all the same size. So I made them 0.45. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these slightly smaller, or you can make them slightly larger. And we are going to scale them. Actually, I will do them larger this time. And I'm going to do 0.451. That might not be enough. Let's see. And there, it's enough to get rid of the flickering. And it's tiny enough, it doesn't make a huge noticeable difference. I'm also going to locate, see how there's some flickering between this seam. I didn't think that through very well. So I'm going to click on, Alt-click on all these ones that are alongside that seam that have the flickering. And let's see over here. I'll select all these two, and we're going to do it on the other side as well. See where the flickering is. Shimmy it a bit so you can see. Okay, we're going to select this entire row, and the same on this side. And because I kept these at their original size, which is a 1, we are going to make these rows 1.01. There, that should remove all flickering issues. And then just click on an object and click on it again. Double check. Oh, Yoda Zebba. There's another one over here. So let's do that. Tool, toggle active object. Flickering might not bother you, but I don't like it. I just don't like it. Do we have flickering on this side? Oh, doesn't seem to be. How is it on that side and not on this side? Dunno. Anyway, scale, and let's do 0.99 for this one. Makes it slightly smaller, but it gets rid of the flickering. Beautiful. And then I just realized, oh, why isn't this? It's kind of showing some blue through. I'm going to leave it though, because it's supposed to be rustic, right? And I forgot to do the roof trim on this side. So like we've been doing, we're going to hop on over into build mode and then copy the room and just rotate it to the side. And then we're just going to toggle select and drag it over back in live mode. Oh, and while we're in build mode, let's just shimmy these over. I'm just going to use the Alt key. That way we can place it where we want. Oh, there's a bit of a gap over on the one side, isn't there? Rain would definitely come through that crack in the wood. You know what? I'm just going to leave it for the sake of this video. I'm just going to leave it. My perfectionist side of me is like, fix it, but I'm not going to. Okay, over into live mode. We are going to toggle select. I think that's probably the right amount. Let's just do extra just in case. It's better to have too many and delete the excess than not have enough and have to reposition everything all over again. Okay, that looks good. And I don't need to duplicate it because I don't need this room here. So let's just move it over here and lower it. Elevate -2 might be too much. Actually, I'm really good at eyeballing things today. Well, kind of. Okay, and it needs to be lowered by -0.15. Hopefully that's enough. No, let's try 0.1 again. Elevate -0.1. Beautiful. Maybe just a little bit more. To elevate -0.05. Oops. Perfect. It's a bit wide though, so I probably need to resize it. Okay, let's see if we can position this with alt placement skills that we've been developing through this video. Of course, I mean, unless you're playing along with me, you haven't practiced it, but that's okay. And you can do that if you want. You can open up the game, put it in windowed mode, and practice along with me. That would be a good way for you to get familiar with it. Perfect. And I probably should resize it. Let's see what it looks like. Nah, you know what? I don't even mind that blue trim. In fact, I might elevate this row to make it more like this one, because I kind of like that you can see the wood trim at the top. So I might need to resize it again. What did I have it at? 0.45. So I might just put it back to 0.5. Okay, I selected them all again. Let's try scale to 0.46. Let's see what that does. Not very much difference. 0.48. Doesn't really fill in the gap. I guess I could just pull it over with the alt placement. Duh. Okay, let's alt place it just slightly. Oh no. Undo, please undo, please undo. Yes. Okay, hold the alt key down. Try it again. Oop, 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 oop. That was a bit thick. Too much. Too much. This might have been a bad idea. That's why I should have done my trick of duplicating it and moving it instead, just in case. Oh, it's just like a tad too much. Really, I need to be able to click on the floor down here, but the roof is in the way. Let's see if I can squeeze through here. It's a bit of a maneuver. Hold the alt key. Too much. It's just too much. Try it one more time. I should have left it where it was. Tell you what, I wonder if we could align it by pulling it forward a bit. Off to the side. Off to the side. Oh, there we go. That's better. There, it's lined up, and then all we have to do is pull it back. Much better idea. See? Aren't you glad I'm causing all these problems in this video? Because then I can show you how to problem solve. Bit too much. Let's try. Bit too much. Okay, I think that's going to be good enough. And let's just make it a tad bit bigger. So let's try 0.49 scale. Let's just try 0.5. Let's go back to 0.5, see if that's actually better. Yeah, see, that's better. Because then we end up with a bit more of a trim like this one. Actually, I think we should go a bit bigger. Tool scale 0.51, because it is slightly still not completely even. Like this side has more of the trim showing than that. But you know what? I'm just going to leave it as is. And then we're going to have to select every other one again. Okay, so I've got every other one, and I'm going to shift click in the gap, and we are going to scale it to 0.511. because it was 4.51. Whenever I say 1-1, it makes me think of Harry Potter, that annoying girlfriend of Ron's. 1-1. No one else? Okay. Tough crowd. There we go. Oh, I clicked on the ground and I moved it. See, this is why you shouldn't do tutorials when you're tired. Okay, undo. Oh, hallelujah. So we're pretty much done now. All we have to do is delete the excess. So let's go back over into build mode, and we're just going to delete these extra pieces and then alt place this one. Like so. Gorgeous. And then look at that, guys. Look at what we accomplished in this tutorial today. I mean, maybe this isn't the best kind of build to try to tackle as a beginner. I thought it would be a lot easier than it ended up being, but at least I was able to show you how to use all the basic features of the tool mod together in one build, so you can see how much quicker it actually makes it. Because think about how much longer it would have taken to place these individual pieces on top of each other, especially since you can only elevate to a certain height, so at some point it wouldn't allow you to align it properly. And there you have it. We made a really cool custom roof using the tool mod. This is seriously my favorite mod ever, and that's why I use it pretty much on every single build. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial video today. I'm sorry if any of it was confusing or clumsy. If you enjoyed this video, please give it an encouraging thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified about fresh content. As always, guys, I love you so freaking much.